Welcome to the Embracing Race podcast. All episodes were recorded in advance, so don't be alarmed if the timeline seems a little bit cattywampus.
So Embracing Race, Conversations with Truth and Intention is all about dismantling every bit of racism and white supremacy. And we do that in hopefully this very organic, authentic conversation style way of just bringing people of all diverse backgrounds to engage in the conversation. Both of us are elders in the PCUSA, which is it the second largest mainline denomination?
I think so.
Okay, but it's also 92% white. And so the church has a lot of reconciling of its own that it needs to do. And we wanted to shed light on, the responsibility of such a large institution and their complicity of upholding white supremacy. And so, so that's pretty much what Embracing Race is all about. We also tried to kind of infuse what's happening in the world and bring our perspective on what's happening. And so with the recent death of Tyre Nichols, and how that played, one of the things. Oh, and just to also add that Jesse and I are both coaches, and so we work with groups and individuals who are trying to figure out their own bias, their own racism, and all of that. And I know I haven't received it yet because I haven't had any coaching clients since the video came out. I'll say that. But what I do know, what I've started to hear in circles is, well, how can it be racist or how can it be white supremacy if all the officers were Black? And so the purpose of this episode is to talk about how white supremacy shows up in institutions such as policing, the institution of policing, and that you don't need white people there when violence occurs because of racism or white supremacy, if that makes sense.
Thank you so much for inviting me to participate. First of all, thank you so much for the compliments. You following me on Instagram. I would love to quickly give a huge shout out to Miss Ramona Hutchins, who is our STEM coach here at Cutchamar Elementary School. I did see that she's a mutual sort of Instagram follower that we have.
Oh, okay.
So I thought that was amazing. I'd love to connect with Miss Hutchins, our coach here, and the podcast, and see what we can do together to affect change in our community. My first thought on the notion of white supremacy still being very, very, very relevant here, and of course it is that this is an institution. Policing in America is an institution that was created for specific reasons. I think we all know that the police force actually was formed to police. If I'm not mistaken, was it not formed to police slaves who were running away? Is that not the initial? So I definitely feel as though we need some sort of system of governance, but something is definitely not working. And this is not a system that was created by us nor for us. And unfortunately, when people get power that has not been groomed, if you will, in a way that is fitting, especially when we're talking about people's safety, I think unfortunately we can see what we saw. What I unfortunately think I saw was sort of, as it unfolded, was an increasing addiction to whatever sort of power, false power, was being assumed or was being felt as the horrific events that occurred on the 7th of this month unfolded.
Yeah, I agree. I just feel like and just from my own personal experience with police and what I was taught, I was never taught to trust the police, no matter what race they were, right? So it was so in my mind, and I was sharing this earlier this week, that and the unfortunate reality, and this is the part where you came in when I was telling Jesse, like, look, there are I was, in order for me to be truthful and to be my authentic self, I have to name things that I probably wouldn't name in mixed company, but I trust Jesse enough to say that the unfortunate reality is that I've had worse experiences, and I've had bad experience with white officers. I've had worse experience with other Black officers that looked like me. And to me, that right in and of itself says that the institution is already tainted, because you can go in just because there are Black people in positions of power, it doesn't necessarily mean that those Black people are representing the people for the greater good. It does not mean that, because institutions are already built to make sure that the people that are in it do what the system was designed to do.
Mm-hmm.
I was, and I usually just go off the top of my head, but I wanted to be very, very proactive, and I have talking notes. But then my iPad just locked on me. And so I don't know, Jesse, take it away so I can pull up my notes.
And hi, Jesse.
Hi.
Thank you so much.
I'm thankful that you expressed your trust in me and Shawnee, and that you're willing to have this open conversation with me in the room. I'm also very aware that a lot of our listening audience is white people. So not only you sharing the space with me, you're sharing the space with a lot of other white people. And so I want to just thank you for your vulnerability, both of you, for your vulnerability and sharing that space. Not that you don't do that on a regular basis or put yourself in vulnerable positions all the time, but to be this candid about your experiences. I just want to honor that space, both of you, and your leadership in doing that.
Well, thank you, Jesse. That was you always have eloquent words. But so to kind of bookend my point, it goes back to even 1851, right? So 1851, a Boston newspaper cautioned people, Black people in Boston, and the title of the article read, "Colored people of Boston, one and all, you are hereby respectfully cautioned and advised to avoid conversing with the watchmen and police officers of Boston, because they were kidnapping them and taking them back to slavery." And these were people that looked like them. That was happening in 1851. So if you think that none of this, and we haven't reconciled any of this yet, so it just changes forms. It just becomes better. They do it, and when I say they, the system does a better job of hiding itself, if you will, in a way that so then the perception of 5 Black men beating and killing a unarmed Black man doesn't look like racism, but it just looks like, Black on Black crime. I'm not here for that. Miss me with all of that. One of the other reasons, though, Commissioner Green, I wanted to bring you on is because at the end of your post, you made a post last week, and at the end of it, you mentioned the George Floyd Policing and Justice. I got it all wrong. The George Floyd Justice and Policing Act.
Yes.
And that you supported it along with Representative Norton. And so I wanted you to really come on and speak about that act and what and what it would mean to quote unquote police reform.
Oh, thank you so much again. I just want to say, the thing that keeps going through my mind is, we can't become well in the same environment in which we became ill, in the same environment in which we were sick. So if an institution was put in place, which at this point is an archaic system, right? We're trying to move so far away from what society was like in 1851, right? We've been trying to move, so we need a whole new system in place. We need people on the streets that are from our communities, that know our residents, that look like us, that sound like us, that don't look like us, that want to identify and learn more about us, right? And this goes for everybody across the whole nation, across the globe. We want people from our communities to understand this. We need a whole new system sort of in place. But thank you so much. The George Floyd Justice and Policing Act was introduced by the U.S. House of Representatives on February 24th, 2001. And it is a bill that was drafted by Democrats in Congress. This is going to grant a lot more power in investigations, especially to the Justice Department's Civil Rights Division. We can issue subpoenas to the police departments much more easily and quickly. It's going to give the state's attorney general more power to provide grants and funding to create more independent processes regarding policing and our response to situations of these natures, sort of more specialized department. We're looking to enhance accountability for officers who commit what we know is misconduct. So there needs to be much more immediate consequences for people who are trusted with keeping us safe and who are unfortunately just doing a horrible job of doing that for whatever reason. We want police vehicles to be equipped with dashboard cameras in the event of, as technology is advancing, we see how important it is that we're able to record these devastating events. We want to prohibit certain forces of restraint, such as chokeholds, something very similar to what caused the death of George Floyd. We know that there was a knee on his back and on his neck as he was screaming and pleading, also calling out for his mother, begging to please at least be turned over, get up. He couldn't breathe, right? So we're using deadly force on our community, and that's just unacceptable. Mm-hmm. So we want to outlaw that. And we want to make sure that people understand that there are things that you're doing that will cause death. So the word death, right? We want to make sure that nothing is happening that's going to cause death. And it's very sad that we're there, but that's what we're asking for.
Mm-hmm. Is anything in the law talking about increasing services where you would have like people in maybe mental illness, distress, or some type of distress that may not necessarily need, because we understand, one thing I do understand is that police are not social workers, they're not mental health advocates or specialists. And a lot of times when people don't know who to call, you just call 911. And so is there anything in that bill to that speaks to that?
Honestly, I don't see anything that strictly speaks to mental health. That is a wonderful point that I would love to take back to our congresswoman talking about mental health. I do think that our police need to themselves participate in more mental health training. I think that the community deserves, thank you so much for pointing on that, sister. Our community definitely needs to be given data regarding what mental health trainings our police actual officers are mandated to go through. And then also we definitely need to make sure that there's some sort of very, very, very strategic, hands-on, rigorous training provided to our officers regarding them somehow being able to be specialists regarding dealing with our residents who definitely suffer from a variety of mental illness. I don't think that Mr. Nichols nor Mr. Floyd, it didn't seem as though neither of these gentlemen were suffering from any sort of mental illness. However, I think if somebody's screaming for their mother, I think we can definitely use a little more empathy. The fact that the young man was screaming for his mother 80 yards away from the house, I can cry. I can cry.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a very important point.
I
could be remiss. There could be something that isn't here regarding a specific mental health plan. So please, Democrats, forgive me if I'm misspeaking. I don't see that. I would love to work on that. I'd love to work on that.
No, that's helpful though. And I want to say one of the things that we heard that George Floyd called out for his mother, and we heard that Tyre called out for his mother. And I have to tell you, going back to 2020, my mother died in 2006.
Sorry.
And since she passed away, I've cried for my mother when I've been in pain. Okay. And I knew she was not coming. I knew if she was coming, then I might be going where she's at. I knew this. But in my distress, that is generally what happens. And so I definitely, I had empathy that day. And every time I hear the story, because George Floyd cried out for his mother, and his mother is no longer with us and was not alive at the time of his death. So I definitely resonated with that. I'm like, this has got to stop.
And now the trauma that we have, this fuels societal trauma. This fuels societal trauma. It fuels the quote unquote black on black crime, right? It fuels that is in place because of a failed system and a failed institution. I think the fact that it's such an innate thing when you're in such a state of horror to call out for your caregiver, in this particular case, their moms. I think, thank you so much for bringing up the mental. I definitely feel it definitely speaks to the emotional horror that these two gentlemen unfortunately suffered, so many like them suffer, and that we, in the aftermath as a community, as a nation, as a globe, now are suffering.
Yeah. One of the things that always comes up in these conversations, and even with other, Black people, well, why are we so upset when this happens, when we have a police involved death that wasn't necessary, right? The conversation I always get with a lot of people, Black, white, or whatever, is proximity violence. And I always have to shut it down, because while there needs to be a conversation about that, we're not going to lump the two together, right? It's like, we're not going to put it all together. I definitely feel that there are proximity violence, like you or 10. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a sociologist. I'm not a statistician, but I do know that white people kill white people on a regular. Black people kill Black people. Proximity violence is a thing, right? And it's not based on it is just based on like where you live and what crimes are being committed on each other, right? I will say this though, I think that those crimes will be or could be eradicated or lessened when you talk about poverty. Poverty and crime are linked together. And until we start having real conversations about why people are in such poverty, you're always going to have crime, and you're always going to have proximity violence associated with the social economic status of these of the area that we live in.
Absolutely. Financial literacy is a huge initiative here in Ward 8,
Yes.
at Ward 8 DC, because we definitely see the correlation between income, crime, education level, and the demographics, right? All of those things all go hand in hand. I'm a STEM teacher. I teach in DCPS, again, with Ms. Hutchins, who's my coach. So financial literacy is very, very important because number one, why are people committing crimes? Well, quite frankly, they don't have a lot of other things to do. Why is somebody standing outside all day long? Because they're not at work. Well, why are they not at work? Well, because they feel as though they don't have the skill, right, yet to be there or to perform the job. Well, why not? Well, because that goes back to what was going on in elementary school and high school, right? So we want to definitely offer financial literacy education educational experiences to our residents. I'm super, super excited to have that conversation here with you guys. I'd love to speak a little bit about Commissioner Adolfo. Commissioner Salim Adolfo. I can pull it up. He has on his Instagram page. Salim is the chairman of ANC 8C Advisory Commission, Neighborhood Advisory Commission 8C. And he has launched a financial literacy series for children. I hope I can pick that up. It's called Building Generational Wealth. And the classes did launch Saturday, January 28th. These are going to be at Industrial Bank, 1800 Martin Luther King Jr. Avenue Southeast, ages 13 and up. You guys can RSVP at ward8leadership.eventbrite.com. For more information, you can definitely reach out to me. I'll give you guys all my information in a second, or info@dcbuf.org. That's DCBUF for DC Black United Front. And again, just quickly, these are financial literacy classes for children in Ward 8 DC. Building Generational Wealth. These are on Martin Luther King Jr. Avenue at Industrial Bank. Commissioner Adolfo is leading this effort, and you can RSVP at ward8leadership.eventbrite.com, or you can email the DC Black United Front at info@dcbuf.org. So huge shout out to Commissioner Adolfo. It's really a pleasure to lead alongside him in our commission. I'm so happy that he has responded the way he has to the crisis in our community regarding crime, financial literacy, income, poverty, and the way, and how those unfortunate circumstances intertwine.
And Commissioner Green, what are the ages for the you can be any age?
This is ages 13 and up.
13 and up.
I certainly wouldn't discourage anyone who's under 13 or over 18 or 185. I wouldn't discourage anyone from reaching out and participating. We love volunteers. We love help. Whether you're 8 or 80, I'm pretty sure Commissioner Adolfo would love to have you on board. Please.
Thank you. And it just dawned on me, and I'm all about kind of like each one teach one. I was supposed to be a history teacher. I ended up in retail management. Don't ask me how I did that. But can you just share a little bit about how, what our ANCs do in the district, and what, how are they separated? Because I was telling Jesse before you logged in, I was like, she's a commissioner. I am in Ward 8. I'm in the Bellevue area, but I thought you were, for some reason, I thought you were a Ward 7 commissioner. But can you speak a little bit about how the ANCs are formed and what your roles are across the district?
Thank you so much. I have really, first of all, I've loved this journey. It's allowed me to connect with great people like yourself and sort of practice sharing for our community as sort of the voice for our community. And it's wonderful. So the Advisory Neighborhood Commissions in Washington, D.C., I believe they are unique to Washington, D.C. Thank you, Jesse. You've been so involved and engaged. I love it. They are based on what are called single member districts. So every ward is separated into like an A, B, C, D, E, maybe an F, D, about 7 or so neighborhoods. And those are called single member districts. And then the commissioners, we live in our single member district. and we are elected officials. So it's the mayor, the council members, essentially, and then the commissioners, which is really, really super exciting. And we are the first liaison between the DC residents and our our government here in DC. So any concerns that a resident has in my single member district, whether it's regarding the local school, regarding the condition of the street, public safety, financial literacy concerns, crime concerns, things, any concern that a resident or a constituent has, they should and would bring those to me so we can have that sort of intimate relationship. And then I can kind of go up the chain and make sure we get those concerns and issues resolved. And I would like to say, if I can, I really love, I love what our city is doing. I honestly didn't know how hands-on I was going to be able to be with, for example, the council, Mayor Bowser, and it's really been a pleasure. I honestly didn't realize how serious it was. Someone said to me way back when, oh, you should run for commissioner, just kind of based off of the community work I was doing. And after I've won and I've been privy to all these awesome spaces, with Mayor Bowser, with Chairperson Phil Mendelson, with our Attorney General, Brian Schwab, who's also just so awesome. I really am in a space, the commissioners are really in a space of sort of intimacy with our very strong influencers here in the district. So I would definitely recommend, thank you so much for asking. I would definitely recommend all of our residents, please reach out to your Board of Elections, get in touch with your commissioner. There is power in having a relationship with the commissioner. We can definitely get your concerns heard and responded to, and it's really a pleasure. It's such a joy and a pleasure to be in this space, and I really, really am having a wonderful time. And I think our city is doing, now that I'm a little bit more on the inside, I think our mayor and the rest of our city, I think they're doing a great, great, great job responding to the poverty concerns, the gun violence epidemic that we have, and the crime, the policing crime. I think they're doing a great job responding, and it's really been my honor to sit in this seat, and I hope I can stay here for a good long time.
Yeah.
Asking.
And so did you, is this your second term?
This is my first time ever.
This your first term? Okay, so what I was seeing was kind of your campaign, is all that what I was seeing going on, and I was like, okay, well, I'm so glad you won.
Thank you so much. I just realized this is honestly, I'm a firm believer in just the power of the universe. You shake something up, it settles the way it's supposed to. I just realized in responding, and I just keep seeing Jesse, being so sweet. Thank you so much. This is actually the 1 month anniversary. So I was sworn in on the 2nd of January.
Oh, nice.
And it's the 2nd of February. So I've been a commissioner for the first time ever for 1 full month. Thank you.
Okay, well, awesome. I mean, because
Congratulations.
I've literally been following you since like last summer.
Thank you.
So I thought you were running for re-election in November. I didn't know that you were running for your first time. So congratulations. And thank you for your yes. I just want to also, I told Jesse when we first started, I'm like, I love talking to you and we have great conversation. We're getting great feedback of the episodes of the podcast, but I want to expand it, and I see this podcast reaching. Oh
yes.
I'm a church girl, so I feel it reaching the ends of the earth in a way, right? And so I said, look, let's get our list. Like, what is our who do we want to interview, right? I don't care if they're on TikTok. I don't care if they're on Instagram. Like, who they want to go big or go home, and and then start in. And then the Holy Spirit was like, start in your community. Who do you want to interview? And I literally, after that prayer, I see your post, and I'm like,
yes,
on an early Sunday morning. I'm like, well, you know what? I mean, all she could say is no, I'm busy, whatever. And for you to say yes, you gave me inspiration to just go after everybody.
I just have to say thank you so much. And Jesse, I would love to hear a little bit more about you and what you do. After I speak a little bit, I love, thank you. Reaching the ends of the earth. That's why we do what we do, because we want to change the world, right? We want to make the world a better place. We want to be able to be in a space where we can say, I am so proud of myself and the hard work that I have done. Thank you for inviting me to your beautiful show and allowing me to share. And thank you for even giving me a few minutes to shine and be happy about the fact that I worked really hard. And I'm now a commissioner. I've been a commissioner for a month, right? We want everyone. I remember somebody said something to me once, because I celebrated by something in my life. I said, yay. And someone had said that's childish. And another friend of mine said, I'm going to have to shout her out. Her name is Dion Johnson. She is an amazing teacher at Hart Middle School.
My daughter went there.
Awesome. She's an amazing teacher. She's been a coach. She loves the kids, so she'd rather be in the class with the kids. Anyways, she said to me, Erica, some people do jumping jacks when they get happy because they want to celebrate something good in their life, right? So that's the whole point of why we do the things that we do. We want to create a world where people can feel free, whether you're 5 or 50 or 150. If you're happy, scream yay, paint your face, whatever, come in with a clown face on, whatever it is, right?
Yes.
Like, come in with pom-poms, wear a tutu or a suit, whatever it is you want to wear, and celebrate yourself. And people around should be so excited anyways.
I love it. I love it.
I'm just
and
really
I was like,
excited.
I already knew we was going to be good girlfriends when you were like, look, do I got to wear makeup? Are we on video? Do I have to wear makeup? I was like,
oh, yeah.
and I put the lipstick emoji there because I said, I don't press record without a red lip. That's not
I love it.
But yes, Jesse, tell us about yourself. Jesse gets into these spaces and just wants to listen and be an observer because they're soaking it all in. But you have amazing viewpoints to share too, Jesse.
No, I mean, I want to honor the space and the like we talked about at the beginning, the vulnerability of it and the truth of it all. And I think, Shani, you and I have kind of had conversations that when there are people of color in the room, I don't want to be the voice that's heard. So I do tend to take a place of just listening, because people that look like me have talked for far too long. And so,
but that could cut you off. I didn't mean to cut you off, but
no, of course.
That's what people need to hear though. That's the thing.
Yes.
Like people like you, people that look like you need to hear that from you. Right?
Yes, this is true. Absolutely.
Right. Like
and they're not going to hear that if I'm just sitting here letting you talk. But no, I think, Commissioner, I would love to know, you said that somebody suggested that you run for commissioner because of your volunteer work and your advocacy work. I want to know your journey of why you said yes to doing this. Like what was your journey to get here?
Thank you. And just moving on with the spirit of changing the world and making the world a better place, I'm going to come back to you right after, and I'd love to know something that you're proud of that we can celebrate. Thank you. So I will never forget, I was sitting, let me go way, way, way back. Over a year ago, I was on Instagram and I saw Commissioner Salima Dofo, who's the chairperson of ANCHC. I'm the vice chairwoman, woohoo. He had posted a cleanup event that was going to be starting at Hart Middle School, where I was at the time. So I showed up. It was freezing cold. There was snow on the ground. Shout out to Anjali Gonzalez. She's an administrator at a charter school. She was there. We were cleaning up. So I met Commissioner Dofo. I thought it was so cool, just the cleaning up, right? Cleaning up our space so our kids can be in a little bit more of a safer environment, a cleaner environment, and they can focus on school and not trash. So I had just sort of started coming to things that he was hosting. There's a Parkland. I have been working very hard in that park. It's at the corner of Malcolm X and Martin Luther King Jr. Avenues. There have been many, many, many petitions to try to actually shut the park down. I've been working really, really hard there. We do a community lunch program there every Sunday. We're working in conjunction with the Chesapeake Bay Trust to launch science in our parks. So getting families and kids outside. So doing all those things. I was sitting in the library one day. I was wearing pink, and Commissioner Adolfo actually called me and he said, "Hey, you should run for commissioner. Like, you're doing all these things in the community. You come to all ANC meetings. You should run." And I said, okay. So I ran, and it just kind of really fit in with the things that I was already doing. I really love being in the community. I really love getting to know our community members. I love knowing people who walk up and down the street every day by name. I love knowing their dogs, with their dogs' names, right? Their kids. It wasn't easy at all. It wasn't easy at all. I just would like to say really quickly, I remember when Hillary Clinton was on TV crying, and everyone was like beating her up and bullying her because she was crying. It's very emotional. It's very emotional. People have their opinions, and they're entitled to their opinions, and we're sort of expected to be sort of almost robotic and like emotionless almost. So I really, really am appreciative of this sort of space. I don't feel like this is that way at all.
Oh no.
No, it's not that way at all.
No, child, no. I don't know if you're into Enneagrams, but I'm a 7, and it's spontaneous, creative. That's why I didn't even look at Jesse when I said I had talking points, because I don't write anything down. I don't prepare anything. I just go off the top of my head. But so I love the fact that you work in the community that you also serve. I think that is just dope. Like,
I love it too.
Because a lot of times, especially in our area, in this DMV area, people commute into DC. They work, they punch their clock, and then they head back to the suburbs. And there is like this, like you begin to feel like, especially in church communities where I attend a church that is considered a commuter church. So they are 10 to 15 miles away from their church. And so they have no idea what their community around their church needs. And a lot of times I'm the voice of the community to say, no, like during pandemic, I'm like, they're like, well, what do you, they wanted, I can't remember what somebody had suggested that we do. I'm like, no, have you seen the cost of milk? They need milk, right? And they were like, just milk, Sean? Like, yes, just milk. Like, pass out some free milk and watch them come. Right? Because I couldn't find milk at the Giant the first 2 months of the pandemic for like 2 months. I had to get milk from the corner store, and they charged me $6.99 for milk. Say less. It turned into, so just that, just understanding the needs, the simple basic needs, turned into a whole food distribution Saturday for, we've been doing it for the past 3 years, but not knowing that because you don't live here sometimes is a disadvantage. And so I think it's just awesome that you work in the community that you serve, and that like it's like people know your name and you know their pet's name. I love that. I
love it too. This has been, like I said, it's really truly been the most incredible journey, like connecting, and I am super, super excited to help. I hope that I love that you're so into your faith. I'm really interested in doing like an interfaith, very, very, very big interfaith endeavor. Let's do it.
Let's do it.
I'm super excited to do that. And I love being in the community that I teach, and there's such a disconnect when you have to drive somewhere else every day. Like this way, it's just kind of all in one pot, and it all really fits together. I actually have a constituent who's going to come during lunch. She needs to get something for a home that she owns. So we're going to do the best we can together during lunchtime today to kind of get that started. And it's such an honor and a pleasure to be able to say, oh, I teach at Ketchum Elementary School. Why don't you come during my lunchtime and we can work it out together? It's wonderful. And that's a huge blessing. And I really love being able to be in a space with people who appreciate us being able to say, you know what, I feel blessed. It's a blessing. And maybe you don't want to use the word blessing, but at least, if I want to use that word, I can. again, right?
Yeah,
It's a
yeah.
huge blessing. Thank you.
Amen. Amen. So, okay. So going back to your question, you said, what are we, you had a question for us?
I did want to know I did want Jesse to give us something. I feel like I spoke too much about how good I feel about being a commissioner now and winning. I want Jesse to tell us something that they feel really excited and proud about.
Oh, I am just proud to be a part of this with Shawnee. When Shawnee said, "Hey, let's do this. Let's make this podcast a reality. Let's have these conversations." And then we went from talking about it to recording it to now it's published. And I'm proud of Shawnee. I'm proud of the fact that she said, "Hey, let's do something big and dream." And literally, you were an answer to prayer. Of literally, she said, "Hey, let's do this," and then I get a text saying, "Oh my gosh, Commissioner Erica Green is going to be on our podcast." Like right before our church service started, like that really was an answer to prayer. And I'm just proud of the work that I get to be a part of doing this. I think people think it's just sort of a pet project, but I think there's a lot of joy and a lot of work, hard work that goes into doing the podcast. And I think Shawnee and I really enjoy ourselves, and we're getting to meet new people and learn things that we didn't know and have really engaging conversations. I am going to shift this because I like, as you were speaking, I had like 15 questions bubble up in my mind around 15 billion different things. But this is something that Shawnee and I talk about, how our faith informs our podcast. And obviously we both come from a Christian, Shawnee and I both come from a Christian background. But I wanted, if you're comfortable talking about it, how your faith has informed your advocacy, how it's informed your entire worldview, and if there has been any sort of dissonance in your experience of doing advocacy work, and how your faith has either rubbed up against that or either just like propelled it forward.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I've never really been asked that question. This is the first time I'm answering, but I've been asked and I'm answering that question. I've been sort of waiting for it, and this is really exciting. And I just want to shout out again, this is super exciting. You know, I'm really excited. Like, I think like, you know, I'm so excited to see where we'll all be, you know, 10 years from now, or even next year. You know, I see Shawnee being the next Oprah. You'll be like, you know, the sidekick, right?
We get into existence.
Right. I don't know if you remember how Wendy Williams would go to like her producers.
Yes, Norman.
Norman
Baker.
Yes. I can totally see it.
I can totally see Jesse being my Norman. Yes, I can totally see it.
I can totally see it. All right.
If you want that role, Jesse, if you want the role.
All right, let's get all the way into it. I'll be as candid as I can. So I am biracial. My mom is Black, my dad is Jewish, and I was born in Washington, D.C. at the Women's Hospital in Georgetown that's no longer there. I did spend a lot of time growing up in New York, in Westchester County, with my Jewish family, my grandmother, who's Jewish woman. We were always secular. We were always very secular. So it was kind of Jewish by ethnicity, not necessarily religion. It was kind of like, you can believe what you want to believe. I'm not going to influence you or not influence you. When I was like 18 years old, I had a conversation with, I was always in DC. My mother grew up here. Anyway, that's a whole other conversation for another time. DC, New York, anyways. So my mother was always here in DC. She spent a lot of time on Mississippi Avenue. I went to Wilson High School. I went to Francis. It's a really interesting story. My goodness. I want to try to make it all make sense. Okay, so back to New York. Okay, so I was in New York a lot with my grandmother, who's a Jewish woman. I was with my mom also back and forth. My mother's a Black woman, raised in DC. I never really had, I always said I was Black and Christian. I said I was half Black and I was half Christian. Interesting, when I was living in DC and going to Wilson and Francis, just by default, I made friends, and we're still lifelong friends. My friend Christella Baruca is a family counselor at family support worker at Mary Center. She's awesome. She's Hispanic. During the time that I was here in DC, all my friends were Hispanic, which was interesting. I didn't have, very interesting. So all my friends, and we're still great friends. I still have great friends. So when I was about 18 years old, a friend from high school was talking to me about Christianity and about God. And it was very, very appealing, and I really liked it. So for about 15, 20 years, I was sort of back and forth, Christianity, spirituality, metacognition. I got really into Abraham Hicks for a while, but it just didn't stick, right? It just didn't stick. I definitely felt like really at peace when I was in these like months and months long modes of like going to church and like staying in constant prayer, and that all of that was awesome. But there was just something for me that just either didn't stick or something that just wasn't all the way there. So I stopped going to church for a little while. Like I'm in like I'm in my 30s at this point. And sometime around February of last year, it was around February of last year, actually, I was driving through Ward 8, the Congress Heights area where I live. And I felt spiritually empty that day. So I said, okay, you know what? Let's go back to church. Let's give it a shot. So I started trying to find a church to go to. I don't know what day of the week it was. So maybe it was a Sunday, maybe. So I started trying to find a church. I'm driving around. I finally find one and I try to go, but I can't go because it's on a base. So I'm like, okay. So then I said, maybe I should try a masjid. So I'm just like, I should just try it, right? So I start calling around, no one's answering. I say, okay, I'm just gonna go drive. So I go drive to Dar El Hijra Islamic Center in Virginia. I start driving, I'm calling, someone actually calls me back. And I explained to them just very briefly, it was Imam Naeem of Dar El Hijra. He calls me back. And I just explained, I'm just kind of feeling empty. And we very briefly, I was like, I'm actually on my way to your mosque. I kind of need to restart my spiritual journey. I'd love to come over and talk and see how it goes. So that was about a year ago. And that just went really, really well. I was able to really connect with some amazing brothers and sisters. And for me, being biracial, immediately when I was there, I immediately felt like I could identify with everyone. And I shared that, I did share that very publicly in the space. And that was for me, like going to church or even being in temple with my grandmother, I never really felt like I really, really identified. But walking into the mosque and just seeing a huge array, and I shared this of different colors, different hair textures, a lot of hair textures I couldn't see, right, because they were covered. But just seeing all of that, different languages, I really, really felt like I could identify. And right around that time, things kind of got a little bit serious with me realizing how like politics could mesh with the community work. And I just became so grounded in my relationship with who I call Allah now. Quickly, you can say God, you can say energy, you can say your higher self, you can say the equilibrium of the universe. To me, all of these sort of concepts and terms are interchangeable. Out of respect for Islam, I'll say Allah. So, and just the whole way of life for me really meshed with who I want to be. I found it to just be a very regal, humble, sensible sort of way of life. Like, don't go out at night. Don't talk to strangers. Right? Sort of very simple, try to be at peace all of the time. Try to wish that for everyone else. This is, like I said before, this is a very emotional journey. And for me now, really being like in Islam, we say, we don't ask anyone else for help. We only go to Allah for help. So, having that and really believing that is this way, because I have to be a leader. I have to be a leader. There's many times where I'm the head. There's nowhere else to go. There's nowhere for me even. And I realize I have to work this out. Right. So me being able to say, okay, I can just work this out with my higher power is truly the only way to get it done. And I found in my personal life and my professional life, everywhere, I have found that for me, being grounded in faith has just been really, really awesome. And I just would love to say the Biden-Harris administration right after I took Shahada, which is when you, in Islam, you become a Muslim by basically stating you believe Muhammad, peace be upon him, the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, is the final prophet. Anyways, the Biden-Harris administration, the Department of Commerce reached out to me through the work I was doing with Commissioner Dofo and Zoe. I don't know her last name. Zoe of Black Greek Fest. Awesome, Zoe. Zoe. They reached out to me. I'm actually serving on her. I'd love you guys to be a part of this with me. This is the Faith-Based and Neighborhood Partnerships Committee. And it's just awesome. It's awesome to be able to unapologetically say, hey, you know what? I'm partnering with a bunch of Muslims. Like, yeah, right?
Yeah, I mean, because I think that, also what is the unfortunate reality of white supremacy is that it allows us to not see each other's faith as equal, right? And that I reject that too. Because I just feel like, just believe. I mean, I don't know, like, it's so many intersections of it all, right? And as you were talking, and you like, well, dang, I go to God for all my needs too, right? Like, I don't, like, there is nothing different about that statement, like, right? So
yeah, I think. Sorry, I'm so sorry. I think that we get so hung up sometimes on the divide of it all that we forget that we're all here for the same purpose. And even if you don't sort of have a sort of faith, right? Like, we all want to be treated with love and respect and kindness. I feel we all want to be good. We all want to do the right thing. And for some of us, the universe has created different channels of connecting with that higher source of self, and whatever you're able to interpret that is great. I remember years and years ago, someone told me that they had a friend that prayed to a doorknob, and like the doorknob kept them sane. And I thought that was awesome. Like, I thought that was awesome. Like, if the doorknob kept them sane, like, that's awesome. Like, no idol worshiping, right? Let me just be clear. That's not what I'm saying. Right. But if you feel as though you can go to a good space in your home,
absolutely,
and it represents, for you, consistency, and just sort of being in that good space, and it happens to be a doorknob, more power to you.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Green. We usually close out with rapid fire questions. Say the first thing on your mind. Are you ready to do that?
Only if Jesse goes next.
Okay.
Okay.
Like, you want me to ask the question? I can ask the questions if you want. I can go for it.
Sure. Okay.
All right. What? There are 11 questions.
Okay.
Are you ready? What is your favorite? What's your go-to favorite beverage?
Water or ginger ale?
Oh, okay.
Ginger ale.
Ginger ale. Favorite streaming platform?
Instagram. Streaming.
Streaming, like
Hulu, like Netflix.
Oh, Netflix then. Netflix. Yeah.
I was social media platform, Instagram.
Yeah.
Spotify or Apple Music?
Spotify.
Android or Apple?
I have two, but I definitely love the Apple.
Disney or Nickelodeon?
Oh, okay. The first thing I thought was Disney, honestly, but I just have to say, I think as a child, it was like Disney, then like Nickelodeon kind of took over, like when I was like maybe 5th grade or so. But now as an adult, I'm back to having that appreciation for Disney. So Disney.
Absolutely. Concert or comedy show?
What is it? Oh, Netflix or comedy?
Concert or comedy?
Oh,
comedy show.
Oh, probably a comedy show.
Yeah?
Comedy show.
All right. Leftover pizza. Are you going to eat it cold or are you going to heat it up?
Cold.
What gives you hope?
People, good people. The power of good people. I wanted to share a story. I was upset yesterday, and one of my students said, "Hi, Miss Green," and she's always the most bubbly kid. And I honestly was so aware of the fact that I wasn't sad anymore. So I think Good people.
What's one word to describe how you feel right now?
Thankful.
One goal for this year.
To expand, there's not one goal, but well, it's one big goal, to expand on every platform that we've started.
Nice. What's one thing or fun fact that we should know about you?
A saying or a fun fact? Let me think. A saying or a fun fact? Please don't laugh at me. My principal today was walking around saying to the kids, bottom on the seat, feet on the floor. And I was like, oh, that's genius. So I started repeating it. Bottom on the seat, feet on the floor. I want to give you a better one. That was so awesome. Something that has stuck with me. My grandmother, Judy, told me I needed to always make sure that I was well adjusted. That's something that has stuck with me, being well adjusted. I think that's something I would like to actually maybe take with me. Thank you for asking. I'd like to take that with me.
All right, your final question, and you can speak as little or as much as you want to this. What does love mean to you?
Love to me means always doing the right thing. Always doing the right thing, even when it's hard. I like to say, back to the other question, something that I like to actually say, I've been sharing with the Washington Teachers Union. I love to say that I'm finding my John Lewis, being comfortable with causing good trouble and knowing that, and being thankful for, and knowing that there have been and there will be times when we, all of us, we'll be standing alone. Whether we're advocating just for ourselves or our community or whoever it is, we might be standing by ourselves, and we still have to be strong and do that, right? So don't be afraid to get into good trouble and find your John Lewis. It'll be okay. You'll make it.
Thank you so much for coming on. This has been awesome. I'm so
glad. I'm so glad. I hope we can do it soon. Again,
yes.
I've got if you want some teachers, I got lots of teachers.
Okay.
Yes. I would love to. I just shout out to the administration at Ketchum Elementary School. I asked my principal. She said, absolutely no problem. I think she's texting me now. She said, absolutely no problem. So we had to arrange coverage, and the administration, hi Girls Health Ed, the administration is at my school is so awesome. So just again, it definitely takes a community, and we all have to be able to work together to make sure that all of these different pieces work. So thank you.
Thank you.
The Embracing Race podcast, hosted by Elders Shawnee McElwain and Jesse Littlejohn, tackles all topics from pop culture to faith and the intersectionality of white supremacy and racism. Nothing is off limits, as we hope to educate and transform with radical love. For more information, visit us at embracingrace.online or on Instagram at embracing_race_podcast. If you'd like to be a guest on the podcast, or if you would like to submit a comment or question, please email embracingracepodcast@gmail.com. We are thankful for those who have sponsored the Embracing Race podcast. Shout out to the following groups and people. Gen Out. The Gen Out Youth Chorus. Gen Out is an outreach ensemble of the Gay Men's Chorus of Washington, D.C. Gen Out's mission is to give young LGBTQ+ and allied youth a voice to connect to the community. The ensemble is open to all singers between the ages of 13 and 18. Please visit www.gmcw.org for more information. Interwoven Congregations. Isn't it our hope that we would all come together as a society across the chasm of race and become the beloved community that Dr. King imagined? Interwoven Congregations' mission is to organize and support partnerships between faith communities with different racial compositions in order to foster racial justice and healing. For more information, please visit www.interwovencongregations.org. HOD Records. HOD Records is a talent and artist development company that specializes in artistry development and content creation. Serving the DMV and beyond, HOD creates a family-centered management style that promotes a collaborative spirit. Check out HOD Records on all social media platforms and visit hodrecords.media for more information. If you would like to be a sponsor of the Embracing Race podcast, please email embracingracepodcast@gmail.com.